So listen, I'm Sean Harris. I'm with IDMWORKS. I owe everybody here an apology, first and foremost. I'm a little bit off my game. We had a long event last night, and because of that, I'm a little less animated than what normally I would be. So I'm going to apologize for droning on and on. I'm not that motivational of a speaker to begin with, and I'm really at an all-time low. Okay? I set the bar really low. We go from there. So as I said, I'm with IDMWORKS. We're going to be talking to you today about working through a better way to justify identity and access management projects. Okay? Before I get into that, I'm going to give you 2 quick slides, who we are, what we do, blah, blah, blah. Let's take about 5 seconds. All we do is identity and access management. Okay? We've been doing this since 2004. We've run about 750, a little bit more than that, successful identity projects. We got about 150 people dedicated to identity and access management around the world. Okay? So here's what I want to talk about. Fact of the matter is this. Over the last 25 years that identity and access management has been what we'll call somewhat mainstream. Everybody in the room feel like it's delivered exactly what was expected, exactly what you said that it was going to, right? Everybody's feeling, see, I got one. Oh, yeah, right? Look, an SI, which we took it off the sheet here, one of the big SIs has come out and said, look, 75% of these projects deliver less than was expected. Look, I don't know if it's a software problem or if it's a justification problem or an expectations problem, okay? It's actually the intersection of all 3 points. But what we want to talk about today is bringing together all of these different points into how do we better justify these programs, set expectations, communicate this information at a level that you can actually count on getting your project funded for phase 1, phase 0, multi-phase out over time. So, how many of you have justified an identity and access management project? Written the justification? Great. How many of you are using the same justification that was around 25 years ago? How many of you know what the justification was 25 years ago, just to set this? You do. What was it? Cost efficiency, right? Specifically what? Anybody? Anybody want to guess? Somebody said to me today, really smart guy, said to me, he goes, look, I'm really tired of these non-interactive presentations. So I said, oh yeah, watch this. I've got no words on really many of these slides. There's no words on the slides, it's a picture. That's how I tell stories, okay? I'm not here to talk to you about the slide and read the slide deck to you. Like I said, low key. So we're going to go interactive on this. Cost efficiency, specifically what? What's the #1 cost efficiency that everybody used once upon a time? ROI. ROI, yeah, we're going to drive ROI how? You got it. No, you can't look at him. I'm pointing at you. He said help desk reset, right? Password reset, good answer. That's perfect, right? ROI, that's how we're defining that hard dollar cost. Hey, if I put this tool in, I avoid 17 help desk reset calls, password reset calls a day, and each one of them cost how much? Shy, you got it? How much? $4, that's more than that. They always say, how much? 25 bucks. Can I get a 30? Because this is the game that you play, right? This is the game that you play. Hey, I got to justify $1 million project. How much is my password reset call? If I'm getting one, it's $1 million. Nobody believes it, okay? But it's the same thing, and believe it or not, I've been doing this, and the baby face will throw you off. I've been doing the same thing, identity and access management, since March 1996, right? And I've read justifications last month that were the same as I read in 96, and I was mortified. So we put together a couple of points, right? We put together a methodology. We put together the process. And you would think, and you're going to look at me at the end of this and you're going to, dude, that was common sense. But if you look left and right, some of these points are not common sense to some of the people in the room, okay? Some of the people in this room are going to find this to be somewhat beneficial, but all these points should be common sense. So what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through 3 buckets that contain 7 steps to justifying business value, okay? Alignment, engagement, and measurement. Like I said, it's common sense, okay? Should be, but at the end of this, hopefully you say to me, hey, one of those was a good idea. So number one, how are we aligning our project to the C-level priority? Number one, the business economy has changed. The way that we communicate is different, okay? Today, some people are talking about, hey, look, I still need to know how many FTEs I can cut out of my budget. I get it, okay? I want to know how many password reset calls I can avoid. How many user events do I avoid by putting in role-based access control? Or how many sessions can I record and not have to have multiple admins coming on the privilege side? I get all that. But here's the challenge. You need to understand, number one, you need to understand the business initiatives. If you cannot translate your project into business terms, you've got a problem, okay? And if you bring the 25-year-old justification, you better duck, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna help you butter up the executives. I'm gonna help you bring them exactly the information that they need. But you gotta take that first step forward. You need to understand truly what those business initiatives are. Who owns digital transformation? Is your company going through a digital transformation initiative, right? Everybody in the room is probably going like this. Why? Because everybody's going through digital transformation. What is it? I have no idea. All right, we're moving to the cloud. Why? It's cloud. What the hell does it mean? I don't know. But your company knows. Somebody inside the company understands it, okay? Your job is to understand the business initiative that's being pushed down from the executives, to understand what the CIO's priority is, to understand what the chairman of the board's priorities are, and to push through. Does anybody have a clear definition of what digital transformation is that you can give to me? Because everybody I talk to has got something different. Anybody? No. Oh, I want to go all the way back to the beginning. Good news and bad news on this presentation. I tend to use a lot of words very, very quickly. The good news is I'm only up here talking for about 20 minutes. The bad news is I'm condensing a day worth of workshop into those 20 minutes. Am I gonna give you all of the answers today? No. I'm gonna give you categories for what you need to think through, right? And the idea is, as you start thinking through these things, as you engage with your team and you start driving these things down, that's where you're gonna start finding some of the success, okay? The programs. How do your programs tie to the business initiative? Let's talk about a program. How many of you are running identity projects? Hopefully everybody, right? You here want to talk about justifying them. How many of you are running projects under the umbrella of a program? A couple less hands. How many of you have got that program fully documented and it covers the next 3 to 5 years? A lot less hands, okay? Guys, we're trying to understand how the program maps to the business initiative. We're not talking about projects. Projects is the greatest way to fail an identity implementation, okay? Project plus project plus project plus project equals spaghetti. What? Yeah, well, you hope it equals program. The way that it equals program is where you start with a program, a fully documented program, and then everything that you do adds up to exactly that. But when you start talking about the justification of each of those individual projects under the umbrella of program, we have to assign the value back to the initiative. We have to be able to tie that back. So think about my business initiative is customer growth. Great, I need to go be able to take over the next set of customers. What do I need to do that? I want to consumerize, I want to provide the digital initiative, the digital transformation to open up my resources to all of my users. Employee, contractor, consumer, customer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Why do I want to do that? How does my consumer identity and access management initiative tie back to the chief marketing officer's transformation initiative? Okay? These are the things you need to be able to ask. If we're going to de-risk, if the business initiative is to de-risk the business, drive risk down, what am I doing with my privilege project to do exactly that? Am I reducing breach? Am I identifying where the source of breach was? What am I doing in this? Advocates. We've got to find some partners to work with on this. So number 3, identify key stakeholders throughout the organization. Who owns digital transformation? It's not a trick question. Everybody, okay? But really, when the CEO says, I need this digital transformation project to go smoothly, who are they looking at? It could be anybody. It could be the chief marketing officer. Okay, the chief marketing officer wants to be able to communicate more effectively to the customer. Okay? You go shopping, we've got a single user experience where when I go shopping, I know that the next time I come to the site, I'm getting similar products, or I'm getting another email back saying, hey, you were looking at these other things, now I've got this other stuff out here. Great, fantastic. We've got to find the stakeholders. We've got to find the people in the line of business that have driven you crazy. Think about the line of business guy that said, hey, I just deployed a single sign-on tool for my group. I get a couple of smiles, which means it's happened. Okay, think about that. Are they your friend or your enemy? Both. Okay, so what are we looking for here? We're looking for them as the stakeholders so we know what to do so that we can go through and we can start to create advocates. If I can't explain to the line of business owner, if I can't explain to them why my identity initiative enables their business, I fail. Because when it goes forward, they go, hey, all in favor? And he's sitting there going, I don't understand what this is going to do for me. Now all of a sudden I don't have funding. I don't have a clear path to funding. Okay? The chief marketing officer, it's an important part of the title here, chief. If the chief marketing officer understands what your consumer identity project is, so bringing the umbrella of all identities under your program, all of a sudden, you're getting senior most executive buy-in. And more importantly, when that report, when that justification, and listen, how many of you guys have ever justified $1 million identity program? Okay, how many? 2 million, 3, 4, come on, I got you, 5, 6, 7, 15, look at, here we go, 20. Okay, did you sign off on that one by yourself? No, where'd it go? Went all the way up, right? Did it go to the board or the CEO? Yeah, right? So we need to be able to tie these facts back. We need to be able to bring those back, and we need those advocates. Because, listen, I'm sorry, I hate to say this, and it'll sound terrible when I do, I don't mean it to do that, but when Sean, the Director of Information Security at Brand X says, hey, CEO, I want to spend $20 million, my opinion means exactly $250,000 worth of signing authority, okay? But the CIO, the CISO, the CMO, everybody else inside the organization that carries that C badge, they help create a broader signing authority, right? And if I don't have the line of business, sometimes I don't have the line item, I gotta be able to go out and I gotta be able to lean on my advocates, bring them into my camp, help me justify where we're at. Measurement. Okay, so think through this for a second. We're justifying a project under a program. How does it need to be successful? What's the measurement of success? Anybody? This is an interactive session. They didn't tell you that? First guy we pick on is the last guy in the room. Here he goes. Look, he's running by. Hey, if you justify $1 million identity program, see, I'm going to follow him all the way over here. I told you it's going to be a terrible tennis match. If you justify $100 million identity project, what do people want? Result. How do we measure the result? Right? KPI, key performance indicator, KRI, key risk indicator, okay? What are we doing? What's the result? What are you doing at this time to prove that you've met your metrics? Is it that you've provided single sign-on on day 45? Maybe, maybe. But what are we missing in that? Hey man, I gave you single sign-on. So what? What does that mean? What do the executives want here? They want to know that I provided single sign-on, and by doing so, I've enabled this other unit to move more quickly in adopting new users, or to access more applications, to be able to expand into Paul's new initiative that's going to open up a new piece of our business to our consumer. Okay? You understand where we're building here? So now you've got an element around translation. We speak the same words today that we've done for the last 10 or 20 years. How many of you guys are 5-year identity veterans? 10? 15? 20? Got one. Okay. Are you using the same terminology today? Effectively at its core, the same terminology today as you did 20 years ago? Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. It's okay to say yes, because I hear it all the time. Okay? We're using the same term, auto provision. Auto provision, look, auto provision and identity governance and user lifecycle, it's basically the same thing. It was the security administration that we saw 23, 25 years ago. I get it, it's adding users to resources. But how are we translating this back to the business? How are we bringing that back? So we've got to take the tech speak out, and we've got to talk to a new group of people that are spending the money on your behalf, the board of directors, the executive team, that don't get it. I want to say in a perfect world, but it's not in a perfect world, it never is. Today, most CIOs, any CIOs in the room? Good, we can talk about them. How many CIOs are true technicians at this point? 0, I love it. What are they? They're accountants, they're business people. Do they understand RBAC? When you wing an RBAC at somebody in that meeting, do they go, I got it. Hey Frank, I'm glad you said RBAC. I was thinking RBAC all last night. That's not the conversation that they want to have. The conversation they want to have is efficiency, right? We want to talk about optimization. We want to talk about de-risking. You've got to be able to take what you're doing and start to translate that back into the conversation that they need to have, because they're not being measured on the single sign-on for 1,500 users. That adds up to it. We talked about this a little bit. So take the information, map it back to the board. And look, I'm using board as kind of a high level, right? And it may not be the board of directors. It may simply be the executive team. It may be the non-technical, senior most technical officer inside the company. Well, I'm sorry, that'd probably be the CTO, wouldn't it? Right? Risk-based. When I get dragged out in front of board of directors, what do you think that they want to talk about? Where do you think they're afraid to be tomorrow if they get breached today? Say again? In jail. Where? On the news, right? Wall Street Journal. They don't want to be on the front page. Okay? So look, they want to drive risk down. They want to figure out, how quickly can I recognize breach? How quickly can I point to what the issue was that led to breach, that I can remediate breach? They're talking about all these different things, right? These are terms that they have because they're worried about, hey, I got a great job. And trust me, those are great jobs, man. You know, I saw like McDonald's. I saw the CEO of McDonald's, how much bonus money that cat made, right? That's a good job. He wants to keep that job. How do you keep that job? You stay off the front page of the Wall Street Journal for anything other than profit went up, people are eating more hamburgers. Okay? Quality-based. Look, we still have an opportunity to talk about the improvement of quality. Hey, happy end users are still end users. They're still my customer. Why are they still my customer? Because I've got a simple experience that they can go use, right? Think about what organizations are doing right now to streamline the usability of their platform for their customer base. Why do they do that? Why does my bank want to eliminate the 26 different logins to get to my investment company, my 401k, and all these, my mortgage, blah, blah, blah? Why do they want to give me one point of access? Because if I have to log in 26 times to get to all my information, I'm going down the street to the next bank, right? Because it's easier for me. At some point, their service sometimes gets commoditized. So now what you need to do is you need to throw in a little bit of quality, right? Of course, we're taking cost outside the system. At the end of the day, you still need a hard dollar justification. I'm just saying wrap this thing in a better blanket, right? And growth-based. Some organizations are growing, some are doing acquisitions, some are shrinking and doing divestiture. When you do an acquisition, how many people have gone through an acquisition? Right? You've brought another organization into your own, and what's the first thing you got to give to these guys? You got to give them access. And what are you giving them access to? Whatever, data and applications, right? Okay? If you can't do that, how good is that acquisition? It's crap. It never got done. We've got a $20 million acquisition or a $100 million acquisition, and we've got half of that organization or 100% of that organization sitting still, and they can't access the systems. We went through this fantastic 6-month curve of how we're going to integrate everybody, and then on that last day, we can't implement them. Why? Because we're not thinking through these things. These are the kinds of things that you can add into your justification. But again, I'm not talking about user provisioning and I've got a birthright role to create the windows and the exchange and all these things, those access points. That's not what I'm talking to you guys about. What I'm talking to you about is completing the acquisition. That's a business issue. That's a growth of organization issue. And the IAM team. IAM team needs to evolve itself. I'm sorry. This is how we all get better at what we do, right? And again, look, I told you 25 years of doing this or 23 years of doing this, whatever that was back in '96. I'm not the same guy that I was back then, right? I'm twice the man I used to be. For those of you who knew me 25 years ago, you'd know I'm twice the, it's a weight gain joke, saying gain some weight. In the next couple of years, executives will no longer be managed based on what they're doing. They're not gonna be talking about the technical, they're gonna be talking about business outcome. Let's get in front of it. Let's drive out in front of this. Let's start talking today about the business issue and starting to build that story anytime that we talk about our program. So we gave a presentation earlier today. We talked about assessing your environment to understand how you need to prioritize things, okay? So now what we're doing is we're making a pretty broad assumption. One, you've got a program. You know, you've got your roadmap. You know what you need to do. You've built that blueprint, and now you know step by step where you're gonna go, why you're gonna go there, what's the priority of projects that live under that bigger program, okay? That's a big assumption, okay? Where we're going now is we're saying, hey, look, we're gonna talk about these things. Everything that we do is gonna have a different context. After that presentation, I got introduced to a gentleman. He came up and he said, every one of my justifications, every initiative that we have, I've got 400 line items of technical issues. Every one of them has a direct business outcome. Not technical outcome, but a direct business outcome. He's got 4 years of funded work in front of him. 4 years of integrated funded work out in front of him. Why? Simply because he's able to tie that program back to his business. That's the top down. That's the executive management. They had no issue, right? I'd never met this guy before today. And we talked about some of these issues. And he's like, yep, that's exactly how we do it. You've got to have a broader team. They have to understand what we're talking about. We've got to assign it to a business issue. I was actually pretty happy when he told me this, because until that time, I didn't know if these slides would actually work. That guy justified the whole thing. I can see by the crazy little countdown clock over here that I'm about to hit the end. Here's where this all comes to fruition, okay? This is the 3 buckets, the 7 steps. What you need to do is you need to cross over from here, and you need to say, hey, how do I take action on these things? How do I make myself better? How do I enable my identity team to be better business people? Because better business people are going this way, okay? The single technician that only understands that one point is going flat, okay? That's where the industry's going. That's where the executives are driving us through. Look, shameless self-promotion. IDMWORKS, we built a methodology around this, right? And we've got, one of the reasons that I didn't go through and say, hey, look, here's all the answers. Because the answers for you and the answers for you, they're different. Why are they different? Because your business and his business are completely different. So what we've done is we've built a methodology to go through and start asking these kinds of questions to help build these things out. Now, the slide deck that you look for, your slide deck and his slide deck are two different slide decks. Why? Because different information is presented different ways to different people. What you need to do is you need to crack the code of your own organization. Use the 7 buckets. Understand those 7 concepts of knowing what I'm doing, how it ties to the business. Who can rally around me? Who owns it? Who can rally around me and become an advocate and give us a little bit of push? How am I translating this back to key measurements that the board of directors care about? And how do my people start to speak differently all throughout the organization? Okay? There's help that can be had. Your integrators, everybody in this room's got an integrator or a partner or a software vendor, right? Everybody out there can help. Just open your mind, open your arms a little bit, and ask for this kind of assistance. Try to open up this dialogue and start driving it through. We're happy to help. Look, just in the spirit of good karma, you want to have a conversation on this, I'll be over here, I'll give you a business card, reach out to me, we'll start talking through this. Like I said, I got the short end on this one because this is a day's worth of workshop buried down into a 20-minute summary where I can't give you words on a page that make a lot of sense in 20 minutes that tell you a whole story. This is a broader discussion that we hope that you guys start having internally inside your organization. With that, I'm going to ask if there's any questions. Either I put you all to sleep or it was really compelling and you're stunned. Yes, sir.
Well, it's kind of an open-ended question, but I noticed on the one of those slides under transformational type of programs, I believe, you had MFA listed. So I wonder if you could say anything more about that. Some people might think it's like a point solution.
So we start talking about evolving the way that the business actually works, and we start thinking through all of the tendrils of the identity jellyfish, right? And if you stick around long enough and you look at the event feed, you'll see pictures of the IDM jellyfish that lives out there, right? You think about all these different dangerous aspects around authentication. You start thinking about, hey, look, I'm about to give my user community and my consumer community, my customer community, I'm going to give them access to my environment, okay? When I hit my bank, what do I need to get to? What do I need to do, right? I'm getting that SMS saying, hey, look, here's a verification code, you're not a robot, all these things. Multi-factor authentication is a point solution. It's a point solution with a broader business context. That broader business context, quite simply put, is ensuring that the right people have access in the right manner, depending on what they're actually trying to touch. It's adaptive, okay? So, long story short on that, yes, every one of these technologies, you think about user provisioning as a point solution, right? Privilege is a point solution. Put them all together, and now you've got an end-to-end strategy. I'll fall off the edge of this thing in a minute. Right? You got an end-to-end strategy that takes point solutions and turns them into strategic business initiatives. That was an answer to an open-ended question, by the way. It was rhetorical. Any other questions before they hit the gong and get the hook? Again, I'm Sean Harris. I appreciate you guys taking the time today to listen to this very, very short and quick presentation. Thank you very much.